Evidence secured at marker 4. Advise command we are holding the scene.
Copy that. It's getting heavier out here.
The Federal Bureau of Investigation just extracted new surveillance frames. Yet an inside source claims what these images omit completely is simply odd. Nancy Guthrie remains missing. That single word comes directly from someone deep inside an active federal probe. They chose that word deliberately, knowing exactly how heavy language weighs inside a forensic environment. Odd, because in an investigation anchored by digital timestamps, sliced wires, and erased footage, that specific adjective carries massive weight most overlook entirely. Welcome inside the investigation room. Let us tear this open. We chase verified evidence here, ignoring wild speculation and internet narratives to track only the documented record. We drop deep documentary dives weekly. If this disappearance still grips your mind completely, and our massive response to prior coverage proves tens of thousands of you remain absolutely locked in, hit that like button. It directly helps this search reach everyone. Now lock this jarring question in your head for the rest of our timeline. If Nancy Guthrie had cameras that caught absolute zero on the night she vanished, registering no motion, zero activity, and zero trespassers, what does that expose about our suspect? Exactly what extreme level of inside knowledge, preparation, and technical execution did they possess? Detectives currently sit with that exact cliffhanger. Let us begin with the hard, verified facts. Medical and legal definitions officially classify her as a highly vulnerable adult. Walking proves intensely difficult. She requires a cane. Puma County Sheriff Chris Nanos publicly confirmed during his February 3rd press briefing that she cannot walk 50 yards alone. She survives on daily pills for a severe heart condition that mandated a surgically implanted pacemaker, a vital machine designed to constantly regulate her pulse. January 31st, 2026, Nancy shared dinner alongside her family. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, who married Nancy's daughter, Annie Guthrie, drove the woman home and dropped her off near 9:50 that evening. Mountain Time. That moment marks the final verified sighting of Nancy Guthrie by any public witness. A digital sequence immediately followed, logged by machines surrounding her property, which in one deeply critical instance failed to record. February 1st, at 1:47 in the morning, someone tampered with and disconnected Nancy's Nest doorbell. That timestamp remains precise. By 2:12 that morning, another security camera sensed motion, yet it produced zero usable footage. 2:28 hits, and Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker application severs connection from her Apple devices. That represents her final electronic heartbeat inside those walls. At 2:36 that morning, a neighbor's Ring camera, roughly 2.5 miles away, filmed a vehicle blowing past at a violently high speed for that hour. Relatives arrived at noon because Nancy missed her virtual church service, only to find the front door completely unlocked. Her necessary medication sat abandoned on the counter. Her vehicle rested inside the garage. Her wallet remained inside. Her phone sat on the nightstand. Detectives confirmed blood on the front porch. DNA analysis proved the blood belonged to her. Cadaver dogs scoured the entire property but discovered absolutely zero remains. Forensics analyzed the porch and driveway blood patterns, noting round, intact droplets that indicate blood dripping from a stationary height instead of scattering through frantic movement. This led former FBI Agent Maureen O'Connell to conclude the suspect carried Nancy away rather than dragging or walking her. She exited that house alive. Former FBI profiler Jim Clemente publicly backed up this exact assessment. Federal agents finally dropped the recovered Nest doorbell surveillance video. Google helped pull this footage from the cloud because the physical camera vanished from the property. It reveals a masked figure standing outside, fully armed, lugging a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack straight from Walmart, wearing nitrile gloves, a handgun holstered dead center on his waist in a bizarre position, plus something poking out of a pocket, an antenna protrusion that technical experts say perfectly matches either a walkie-talkie or a dedicated signal jammer. On February 16th, The Puma County Sheriff's Department formally confirmed that the entire Guthrie family, meaning all siblings and their spouses, underwent rigorous interrogations and were officially cleared as suspects. The case then hit a wall that, 42 days later, yields 0 named suspects and absolutely no arrests, alongside an active reward exceeding $1.2 million sitting completely untouched. And now, we get one single word: odd. Over recent weeks, the FBI extracted thumbnail images from motion-triggered cameras mounted across 3 specific zones around Nancy Guthrie's estate: the swimming pool, the deep backyard, and the side yard. Do not confuse these with the front nest doorbell that caught our masked intruder. These are entirely separate perimeter lenses, actively guarding different angles across the exterior grounds. That word, thumbnail, is profoundly important. Detectives expected the security system to hand them the kidnapper immediately. They were dead wrong. They only recovered isolated static photographs. These units automatically snapped pictures whenever activity crossed their sensors, creating a visual movement log. If a subject stepped into the viewing zone, the device captured exactly 1 solitary frame. Before the kidnapping actually happened, these scattered timestamps captured nothing but standard residential routines across an undisclosed stretch of time. Detectives quickly identified various individuals lingering in the rear and side yards, raising 0 alarms. Following February 1st, lenses caught police officers processing evidence near the pool. You have your bookends: ordinary citizens before, crime scene technicians after. But what about the middle? During the night of the actual kidnapping, the devices recorded absolutely nothing. No intruder slipping inside, no one carrying Nancy out, no vehicles navigating the driveway, 0 backyard disturbances. Speaking with ABC News, one insider called this total blank space odd. Think about what that actually implies. 3 exterior motion sensors stood watch. They covered every single perimeter angle where passing physical activity should register. Yet an 84-year-old woman got forcibly dragged from her residence that exact night. Someone hauled her across the front porch, straight down the driveway, past the gate, into a car. 3 lenses stayed blind. Let that sink in. For weeks prior, ordinary household routines tripped the system frequently enough to generate perfectly clear photographs. Then came the one night that mattered. The specific window detectives built their timeline around. What happened? Total blackout. Law enforcement refuses to publicly explain why. Detectives won't speculate openly, but they relentlessly dissect the failure. Privately, one source admits they consider the situation deeply odd. Odd means the visual data contradicts what detectives logically expected to find, based on their verified sequence of events. It isn't outright panic. It isn't definitive certainty. It constitutes the clinical phrasing of an expert staring at evidence that fractures their working theory. In police terminology, calling crime scene footage odd usually points toward one of 3 highly specific scenarios. Scenario 1 implies the intruder operates with complete awareness of the existing security hardware. He navigates the property, proving he memorized exactly where every single sensor pointed. He calculated the exact coverage angles, moving through the grounds by staying inside blind spots or creeping underneath the motion activation threshold. You do not dodge security sensors on instinct. It demands advanced intelligence regarding the exact security architecture of that precise residence. Scenario 2 involves an accomplice materializing on the footage from a completely unexpected, supposedly secure vantage point. A phantom player missing from the timeline, someone absent from the Nest doorbell video, whose sudden appearance completely rewrites the suspect count. Scenario 3: the video captures the crucial moments right before the attack, revealing deliberate preparation from an alternate angle. It shows tactical positioning that shatters the established timeline, not the actual attack, but the meticulous groundwork preceding it. Every single one of these possibilities radically transforms the manhunt. Are they wrong? A fourth theory exists, and it changes everything. What if the equipment worked perfectly? What if the devices operated exactly as designed, but they detected 0 movement because there was nothing to see? What if the zone around Nancy's pool, backyard, and side yard sat completely untouched on February 1st, Because the attacker executed the entire abduction from the front? This means the kidnapper operated with intense tactical discipline. He breached the property from the street, slipping exclusively through narrow corridors invisible to the perimeter sensors. He knew exactly which lenses monitored which zones, selecting an infiltration route that kept him completely hidden. That isn't standard burglar behavior. That isn't the entry of a criminal picking a random, spontaneous target. That reveals an intruder who meticulously mapped the security grid of this exact residence long before striking, which circles back to a chilling verified fact. This identical masked figure visited Nancy Guthrie's front porch previously. Insiders confirmed to ABC News, CNN, and CBS News that the FBI photo showing the suspect without a backpack originated before February 1st. It represents a dry run, a tactical scouting mission where the kidnapper cataloged vulnerabilities. That total lack of perimeter video during the actual kidnapping might solve the exact puzzle those detectives keep quietly debating. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't coincidence. It proves exactly how much intelligence this predator gathered before returning. And then, they found his DNA inside Nancy Guthrie's house. Investigators possess the genetic blueprint of a phantom. Sheriff Nanos recently confirmed the recovered male DNA completely excludes Nancy and all cleared guests. Yet feeding that exact sample into the FBI's combined DNA index system yielded absolutely nothing. 19 million offender profiles sit inside CODIS. This reveals one unsettling truth. Our suspect holds 0 prior convictions, triggering mandatory genetic collection. He remains totally absent from the National Registry. Detectives now face a highly specific forensic roadblock. Genetic identification remains entirely possible. It simply means standard database queries alone will never unmask him. How do you catch a ghost? Law enforcement must pivot to investigative genetic genealogy. Sheriff Nanos verified that deputies already launched this precise protocol. This technique maps hundreds of thousands of genetic markers spanning the entire human genome. That vastly outnumbers the 20 markers CODIS relies on. Analysts then upload this massive profile into platforms granting explicit police access, like GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. The algorithm hunts for distant genetic relatives. It flags third or fourth cousins sharing perhaps 1% of their DNA with our perpetrator. Hitting a match prompts genealogists to construct outward family trees, utilizing public records, birth and death certificates, census data, and archives until isolating a single candidate. Detectives then shadow the target to collect discarded environmental items, a coffee cup, a cigarette butt. They pull a discarded tissue from the trash, confirming the link via covert testing. This exact framework finally captured the Golden State Killer following 30 years of dead ends. It secured the conviction of Brian Kohberger, landing him 4 consecutive life sentences without parole on July 23, 2025. But the Guthrie investigation faces a severe genetic complication. Crime scene technicians recovered a highly complex mixed biological sample. This evidence contains interwoven genetic material from multiple people. Isolating the killer's exact profile demands advanced bioinformatics processing. Success requires the perpetrator to be the primary contributor. That separation remains actively ongoing. Who can untangle this biological chaos? C.C. Moore can. She serves as chief genetic genealogist for Parabon Nanolabs, the Virginia facility pioneering this exact investigative science across the nation. She recently went on record stating her absolute confidence in solving this case. Her exact words were chilling. "If I was the kidnapper, I would be extremely concerned right now, because using investigative genetic genealogy, he will be identified." Moore openly acknowledged the mixed sample complication, yet she confirmed analysts have successfully conquered identical obstacles in past investigations. Bioinformatics steps in to surgically extract the suspect's individual contribution from the chaotic biological blend. Yet investigators hit a massive wall regarding access to the largest consumer genealogy databases. Ancestry DNA and 23andMe harbor over 37 million user profiles combined. Citing strict privacy policies, both mega corporations completely block all law enforcement access This restricts detectives to GEDmatch, family tree DNA, and DNA Justice. Together, these alternative platforms host fewer than 2 million records. That numbers gap is staggering. Consequently, the FBI issued an urgent public plea. If you ever purchased a commercial DNA kit and downloaded your raw data, voluntarily uploading those files to GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA might provide the exact missing link needed to break this case wide open. The Pima County Sheriff's Department reiterated this week that evidence analysis charges forward, actively incorporating newly processed material directly from the laboratories. Officials withhold the DNA processing timeline. The lab work remains intensely active. But what did the camera catch? Let's examine that Nest doorbell footage. Right as the masked intruder stepped off the porch, bending down to grab shrubbery to blind the camera lens, something slipped. His jacket sleeve rode up. His glove shifted out of place. For a fraction of a second, the camera captured the underside of his right wrist. Jim Clemente, a former FBI supervisory special agent and criminal profiler, publicly scrutinized this tape. He pinpointed what Clemente went on the record. In the process of reaching for the brush, he revealed what I believe is a tattoo on the underside of his right wrist. Forensic analysts and professional tattoo artists immediately dissected that specific frame. Darren Rosa, a veteran artist boasting 30 years of industry experience, told crime analyst Nancy Grace that based on the exposed skin, the design lacks geometric structure. Rosa evaluated it as black and gray work, a highly prevalent tattooing style across the American Southwest. He proposed this fragment likely continues a larger piece, potentially a full sleeve crawling all the way up the intruder's arm. Rosa emphasized that the small segment visible near the joint is almost certainly connected to dense ink covering the forearm, the bicep, and quite possibly bleeding onto the neck and hands. Certified forensics expert Jeffrey Gentry highlighted another clue. Placing a tattoo this low on the hand and wrist instead of hiding it higher up the forearm tells a story. Individuals sporting visible ink in that location frequently navigate environments, ignoring rigid corporate appearance standards. This strongly points toward backgrounds in correctional institutions or specific organized criminal syndicates. A wrist tattoo alone cannot name the suspect, but it locks in a critical behavioral and demographic profile. Add in his center waist holster position, an unusual carry method, indicating specialized tactical training or extreme concealment preferences, and the walls are closing in. The suspect's profile is rapidly narrowing. Look closely at the suspect's hand in the footage. A crucial identifier hides right beneath the nitrile glove. Sheriff Nanos confirmed he spotted a ring. The man wore jewelry beneath his disguise. Reporters publicly questioned Nanos about the detail, and he simply replied, "I see it. I see it." Viewers circled the image online and identified a ring. I plan to hand my speculation straight to my team. They will analyze the images and we will see. That jewelry identifies a suspect completely differently than ink does. Investigators heavily link rings to specific human relationships, secret organizations, group affiliations, or major life milestones. A suspect habitually wearing jewelry during a premeditated crime maintains a deeply documented connection to that object. Ink marks his right wrist. A band sits concealed on his hand beneath the latex. These concrete physical facts exist right here in our real world. A specific living suspect walking around somewhere carries these exact marks right now. The people surrounding him absolutely know him. The FBI deliberately released this raw video footage. We possess the images. We clearly see the details. A local Tucson resident definitely recognizes that wrist. Co-workers at a job, shoppers in a retail store, or relatives inside a family home recognize that specific ring. An associate absolutely knows the man carrying this exact combination of identifiers. We hold no mere theories here. We possess absolute statistical certainty. One single variable remains. Will this crucial witness actually contact the authorities? Profiler Jim Clemente believes we will find out. Speaking on Brian Enton's podcast, he assessed the suspect in his 30s or 40s. He explicitly called the suspect an amateur. This kidnapper completely lacks formal training in handling covert operations or complex abductions. Clemente confirmed the man absolutely displayed pre- and post-offense behaviors. Bystanders in his daily life can easily spot them. Investigators use pre-offense behavior as a highly specific forensic term. It describes visible shifts in daily routine, emotional stability, or normal habits emerging days and weeks before a criminal strikes. Friends, family members, and co-workers operating inside the suspect's immediate environment spot these sudden changes. Neighbors witness these subtle actions even while completely misunderstanding the underlying cause. The suspect makes weird purchases, alters his schedule, displays elevated anxiety, misses regular events, and asks entirely strange, out-of-place questions. He shows sudden, intense interest in an entirely new subject. Clemente confirmed witnesses saw this behavior unfold clearly before February 1st. His close associates can actively observe it. Someone operating in this suspect's daily life caught something deeply unusual. Perhaps they just ignored the warning signs. Perhaps they mentally filed the details away without connecting them to the crime. They sit silently with this information. What actual leverage could force them to speak? Cash provides that leverage. The total combined reward now dramatically exceeds $1.2 million. The Guthrie family promises $1 million. The FBI adds $100,000, alongside Crime Stoppers funds. This life-changing sum represents total reality. Investigators designed the payout to make silence cost far more than talking. Yet 42 days pass. Officials publicly confirm zero credible tips connecting to that massive cash. This deafening silence speaks volumes. Perhaps his inner circle utterly failed to connect Clemente's pre-offense behavior profile with the February 1st abduction, or someone connected the dots, yet actively chooses silence over $1 million. What exact institutional failure allows this investigation to stall? Communication stopped completely. The Pima County Sheriff's Department held their final official press conference on February 5th. During our investigation, 37 agonizing days passed. The lead agency provided absolutely zero formal public updates regarding this massively watched missing person case in recent American history. 37 days. The United Cajun Navy Volunteer Organization documented their direct participation in over 5,000 desert recoveries. They submitted a 41-page operational plan directly to Sheriff Nanos. The group offered vital search resources. Volunteers brought dozens of highly trained dogs and advanced drones. Nanos rejected them without providing any public reason whatsoever. EquiSearch brings extensive desert terrain experience as a nationally recognized search group. They similarly tried contributing their specialized skills. Authorities flatly declined them. Investigators sent the property's DNA evidence to DNA Labs International, a private Florida laboratory. Detectives completely bypassed the FBI National Crime Laboratory, located in Quantico, Virginia. Quantico maintains rapid processing pipelines built specifically for active kidnapping cases. That federal facility provides direct infrastructure to transition forensic profiles straight into genealogical searches. Sheriff Nanos publicly claimed he consulted local FBI leadership before choosing the private Florida lab. He claimed he wanted consistency across all the evidence analysis. Multiple former senior FBI officials publicly question this highly unusual decision today. 98% of Nanos's own deputies voted absolute no confidence in his leadership long before Nancy Guthrie vanished. That damning statistic existed before February 1st. It creates the institutional backdrop, shaping every single decision driving this active investigation. Furthermore, a completely separate civil lawsuit currently names Sheriff Nanos directly. One shocking detail remains buried. He continues leading this investigation while simultaneously managing an unrelated $1.3 million case. This specific combination of factors raises a question far beyond basic individual competence or intent. It strikes directly at institutional capacity, questioning whether the specific agency leading this investigation holds the internal stability, the external cooperative relationships, and the necessary operational independence to actually execute this complex case effectively. Former NewsNation legal analyst Mimi Azari publicly called out serious errors regarding how the Puma County Sheriff Department managed the early stages of this investigation. She targets crime scene preservation failures, delayed aerial thermal imaging deployment, and the institutional friction with the FBI that actively shaped critical evidence handling decisions. Authorities completely released the crime scene in under 20 hours. Before deputies even re-established a security perimeter, following the initial evidence collection, multiple different individuals, which included local reporters, a random pool cleaning company that had never previously serviced the address, and a landscaper, easily accessed the property. Forensic investigator Joseph Scott Morgan publicly documented this exact contamination, noting the precise DNA investigators need to break this case could simply belong to the pool cleaner, whom a deputy physically escorted into the backyard days after the initial discovery. The FBI actually had to return to the property because searchers missed a roof-mounted camera on Sweep 1. They brought Google engineers in to attempt full data recovery from a specific camera the suspect physically removed from the property. Processing that exact data recovery took 10 full days, counting directly from the date she disappeared. A thermal imaging search plane remains a critical asset for locating an elderly woman with mobility limitations who cannot travel far under her own power, yet nobody deployed it for approximately 3 hours after someone reported Nancy missing. According to reporting, department leadership reassigned their only qualified pilot to street patrol following an internal conflict, keeping the plane grounded. 3 hours in a kidnapping case does not equal a simple delay. It operates as a window closing permanently. The detectives and FBI agents doing the actual forensic work on this case are not the target of these criticisms. They build a solid case under conditions their own leadership made exponentially more difficult, and that distinction matters. What actually matters for the investigation involves how every single procedural error from those early days created massive gaps that nobody can fully recover today. Crime scene contamination destroys the evidentiary value of biological material collected at the location. Delayed evidence requests create wide windows where critical digital records, specific router logs, ISP data, and cell tower snapshots undergo partial overwriting or get lost completely to routine data cycles. The specific, narrow window where investigators could fully preserve the most valuable digital evidence from February 1st has officially closed. Investigators work right now only with whatever survived those early decisions. The FBI did recover thumbnail images from perimeter cameras at NY's property. Those images show clear activity before the abduction, alongside the law enforcement response after. But on the night of February 1st, the only night that matters most, those cameras captured absolutely nothing. One source explicitly describes that complete absence as odd, and authorities provide zero official explanations. The DNA recovered inside NY's home forms a mixed male sample completely missing from CODIS. Laboratories currently process it for separation and preparation ahead of an investigative genetic genealogy submission. The timeline for that exact process relies entirely on laboratory capacity and the sample quality. Former FBI profiler Jim Clemente identified a possible tattoo on the suspect's right wrist, which external experts then thoroughly analyzed. Sheriff Nanos observed a distinct ring hiding beneath the suspect's glove. The FBI updated their most wanted page for this exact case, adding new details. The Bureau never updates that page casually. They update it when investigators firmly believe specific information reaching the right person at the right moment could break everything. The Nest doorbell camera disconnected at 1:47 a.m. Investigators confirmed that timestamp. Before that sudden disconnection, the perimeter cameras recorded nothing unusual. Zero official explanation exists, detailing why the area around the property remained completely undisturbed that night, while someone committed a violent crime at the front door. The massive billboard campaign the FBI recently launched in direct partnership with Clear Channel Outdoor, aggressively placing missing person notices across Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, and California, actively targets someone who may have seen the suspect, the backpack, or the vehicle in a context completely disconnected from the immediate Tucson metropolitan area. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer publicly noted the campaign omits any image of the suspect himself, calling that specific decision a massive missed opportunity for investigators. Her assessment? Show him. He's the key. Sheriff Nanos told NBC Nightly News this week he firmly believes investigators know the motive driving the committed crime, but he declined sharing details to protect the active integrity of the investigation. He also stated chillingly how he believes this suspect could absolutely strike once again. His warning to the public hit hard and direct. Do not think for 1 minute that because it happened to the Guthrie family, you remain safe. They found her vital daily medication sitting untouched on the kitchen counter. An 84-year-old woman with a pacemaker, gone. Keep your wits about you. The suspect walked directly up to a camera lacking a cloud subscription, returning to finish his calculated work. One source used a highly odd word to describe how 3 perimeter cameras captured nothing the night she vanished. Let us examine the first gap in those perimeter cameras. 3 motion-activated lenses guarded the property, yet they recorded 0 footage during the abduction. Did the perpetrator memorize those camera positions and deliberately evade those specific zones? Did the exact same internet disruption hitting the neighborhood cameras also knock out her perimeter security? Or do investigators hold a technical explanation they refuse to release to the public? Crucially, if those lenses functioned correctly before and after the attack, what exactly blocked them from triggering when it mattered most? The suspect left a trail. That second mystery points to a prior reconnaissance visit. If this suspect scouted her property before February 1st, a fact confirmed by multiple news organizations directly citing law enforcement sources, did those perimeter cameras catch him lurking? Do the saved thumbnail images from before the kidnapping reveal the very man who later returned? Investigators stated plainly that nothing inside those frames looked suspicious. But does that official assessment actually account for the possibility that the figures captured had a prior, completely legitimate reason to enter the property, hiding their reconnaissance while cameras slept? He carried a specific tool. The third crucial detail is the walkie-talkie. We saw an object in the suspect's pocket bearing a distinct antenna-like protrusion. Some experts strictly interpret this as a communication device, while others categorize it as a signal disruption tool. If it functioned as a walkie-talkie, a second accomplice sat nearby receiving those transmissions. That second suspect held a phone or a radio. That device undeniably generated a clear digital footprint. Cell tower data pulled from the Catalina foothills on February 1st would catch any active device pinging the network. Have detectives fully analyzed that data? Did it pinpoint any single device appearing in that zone across more than one of the specific dates investigators flagged? We have the timeline: January 11th, January 23rd, and February 1st. The fourth major piece brings us directly to the tattoo and the ring. These 2 physical identifiers stand out clearly in the publicly released footage currently held by the FBI. Expert analysis generated a credible description of a black and gray tattoo, likely forming part of a larger design. It possibly extends up the arm, potentially displaying imagery tied to specific cultural or organizational affiliations. Combined with the ring hidden beneath his glove, we are looking at a highly specific and unusual combination of physical markers. Has the FBI released a composite or digitally enhanced image of these exact features across their public tip platforms? If a witness in the Tucson area spotted this exact combination of a tattoo and ring on a specific man, how are they supposed to connect that memory to this ongoing case? The FBI offered an incentive. The fifth factor involves the reward and the deafening silence. $1.2 million, 42 days, 0 credible claims. Jim Clemente stated the suspect exhibited pre-offense behavior visible to people around him. If someone close to this suspect linked those behaviors to this crime and chooses silence, what exactly keeps their mouth shut? Blind loyalty, deep fear, complicity, or just genuine uncertainty regarding whether their observations matter? The FBI tip line accepts completely anonymous submissions. They pay that reward strictly in cash. If simple uncertainty forms the barrier instead of loyalty, the only answer is making that call. Whatever that caller noticed, even if it feels incredibly minor, could be the vital thread connecting everything else investigators currently hold. Take these questions down to the comments. Bring your research. Bring your sharpest analysis. This community examined this case at a level of detail that mainstream coverage simply has not matched. That critical work continues right now. For 7 weeks, she survived without that medication, missing her cardiologist, completely stripped of the routine keeping her heart regulated and body stable. For a woman her age, suffering from a documented cardiac condition, missing those pills is not merely a matter of discomfort. Time is running out. That represents a harsh medical reality compounding with every single day that ticks by. Savannah Guthrie visited her Today Show colleagues on March 5th, sharing a deeply emotional reunion inside Studio 1A at 30 Rockefeller Plaza. She told everyone there she was still standing, she fiercely maintained hope, and she desperately wanted to return. NBC News confirmed she fully plans to rejoin the show when able, but she remains entirely focused on supporting her family and actively working to bring Nancy home. The house up in the Catalina foothills remains silent after 42 days. Yellow ribbons wrap the trees outside, flowers cover the gate, alongside handwritten messages from strangers. The memorial has steadily expanded since February 1st. One man holds the answers. A masked figure bearing a tattoo on his right wrist and a ring hidden beneath his glove knows exactly what happened inside that house. 42 agonizing days. That is exactly how long someone has hidden a twisted secret. Buried in mundane thumbnail images showing a normal household before the abduction and total blackout the night it happened lies the truth. It hides in the DNA separating inside a Florida laboratory and in the digital records of devices pinging within range of that exact property on dates investigators deliberately flagged. They are hunting through Tucson area cell tower data on the nights of January 11th, January 23rd, and February 1st. One single thread connects to his identity. Investigators are pulling every last thread. The word odd is never dramatic. It is precise. It is the stark forensic assessment of a trained professional confronting evidence that shatters our prior assumption about the sequence of events. Here is the chilling reality. The missing evidence might ultimately prove just as crucial as the evidence that exists. The Guthrie family offers $1 million. The FBI pledges $100,000. Crime Stoppers funds push the total available reward over $1.2 million. Nancy Guthrie deserves better than a single word from a single source. She demands answers. Her family demands answers. And the phantom who snatched her from her home in the dead of night, who mapped where every camera sat, who knew exactly when the neighborhood would fall quiet, who came once to study, then returned to strike, deserves to be identified, arrested, and held accountable for every one of those 42 days. Subscribe to the Investigation Room. Hit that notification bell. We track this case relentlessly until those answers are found. In the comments, what do you think the cameras failed to capture that night? Was it deliberate? Was it technical? And does the word odd mean something darker to you now than before you watched this video? Every detail matters. Every tip matters. Every voice matters.